Hello and welcome to this episode of Bite Sized Insights into Hindustani Classical Music. This episode is meant for those who come to Hindustani music from Carnatic classical music or any other formal music tradition. We will talk about three key points to keep in mind when listening to Hindustani classical music. These are silence and speed, notes versus phrases and emphasis used in Hindustani music, and time theory. Silence plays a big role in Hindustani classical music. When the concert starts, the musician will often sit in silence for a while before touching the first note. The underlying concept of this is called tehrav, which means pause. The idea is to be fully in the moment and not rush anywhere or try anything. Savor every note. This is probably why Hindustani classical music is frequently used in meditation and yoga classes, as it follows that same concept, being fully in the moment and fully in the note. When the concert starts, the musician will sit in silence, savoring the sound of the tanpura, creating a peaceful backdrop for the rag. This establishes the base, which is very, very important in Hindustani classical music. And then, when the composition starts, it starts very slow. For vocal music, this might range between 10 to 25 beats per minute. In instrumental music, there is often a slow segment called alap, which starts very slow and may go for, say, between 10 to 30 minutes, or a very slow composition at speeds of 40 to 50 beats per minute. When speeds do pick up towards the end, 300 to 600 beats per minute, this is only reserved for the climax part of the rendition. Let's look at an example of establishing the base in Rag Malkos. The second point to keep in mind is that Hindustani rags are primarily phrase based, while ascending aro and descending avro notes do describe the rag technically, the signature of the rag are particular phrases. And depending upon where the emphasis is placed, the rag can change, although the notes remain the same. A third point to keep in mind is that the treatment of the same note can vary by rag. So, a note Komal Rek's frequency can vary depending upon which rag is being sung or played. Let's take an example of notes versus phrases and points of emphasis. Let's take a simple sentence: I am sitting here. I now emphasize I am sitting here, or I am sitting here, or I am sitting here, or finally, I can say I am sitting here. As you can see, changing the point of emphasis changes the information conveyed by the sentence. And this is exactly how Hindustani rags can change through points of emphasis and how the note is actually enunciated while executing that particular rag. Let's look at an example of the rag Darbari versus rag Adana. Both have exactly the same notes, but the point of emphasis and the phrases used are quite different. Darbari focuses on the lower and middle octave, and Adana is a mirror image focusing on the middle and higher octaves. The last point to keep in mind is that Hindustani musicians will select rags depending upon the time of the day. A day is divided into time sections called prahars, and ragas are selected accordingly. As most concerts are held in the evenings, morning and afternoon ragas are not heard as much as their evening night counterparts. In addition to this, musicians may select ragas for certain seasons such as spring and monsoon. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bite Size series. Please drop a comment about any future topics you'd like me to cover. Thank you very much.